Welcome back, Chris Evans Radio. We are here with Little Dave, and today we have an extremely fun topic of can you train with us? If you have to ask yourself that question, I would say no, you aren't ready yet. As a whole, as a general overstatement, if you have to ask that, you aren't ready. Um, but I thought we would dig into that. But where I actually wanted to start was I was telling Dave before we hit record is I actually got into a really great. I would say it started as a debate and then moved into an education session of the RPE chart. And I think the overall premise of it is great. I love it because it clearly, or at least to my mind, defines what is expected. Now, sadly, I
Yep.
think so many people read those words and they don't understand what it looks like in person versus on paper. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
So,
Most of the time I see people, they're like, that was failure. And they're at the top of a squat rack
yep,
or at the top of a bench press.
yep.
It's like, I hate to break it to you, but your body doesn't have failure at the endpoints.
Correct. Because if it's up, how do you could still get more? Like, how do you know if you came down and went up if you could get another one?
Yeah.
Until, and I think you and I were talking about this before. Like, if I'm using a bench press as an example, if we're doing incline barbell and I'm pressing and I'm up, and then here stick, you don't touch it. I start to eat it. You pull it off of me. That's a 10. That is, I reached positive failure with perfect form. I didn't shoot my hips off the bench. You didn't give me a forced rep, nothing. Like that was, I reached failure and then you pulled it off. That's a 10 racket done. To me, that's, as I said to you, that's crystal clear. There's, if I'm going to paint that picture differently in a hack squat, same shit. You're going, I'm watching you. Next thing you know, you bottom that hack squat out and you roll out of it. That's a 10. I didn't touch it. I didn't give you forced reps. I didn't let you control the negative. I helped with a positive. I didn't strip plates. I didn't make you do an ISO hold. We didn't pause in the hole. Literally, you failed. Your muscle failed in the positive portion of the rep. That's a 10. So to me, as you described, where I'm here with a weight and don't think I can get any more, but I didn't go after it, that's a 9 or less.
Oh, 100%.
It's as simple as that. Like, did you fail? And by fail, I mean you lost it on the positive portion. It's the bar or the machine or whatever started moving back down. And listen, that's so easy to achieve on a lat pull down, any rowing machine, a dumbbell. Honestly, any rowing, you just can't get it all the way up. Okay, cool, done. Now, if you milk some partials, now we're working into the plus 10 RPE.
Yep.
That's an intensity technique of pushing the set or extending the set. So, honestly, as I said to you, I thought this was all crystal clear, but
Mhm.
it's not. Um, and that's sad because to me, if you're doing John's program, if you're doing that Renaissance periodization shit, if you're doing anything that has an RPE chart, if you don't understand how to marry the words to the action in the gym, you are failing the program.
Yep.
I mean, if I tell you, hey, on your top set, I want failure, I have no doubt in my mind, I know where you're going and taking that set. If
Yep.
we're a week before the show and I say, hey, can you leave a couple reps in the tank for me? I know that most likely you're going to listen for most of the session.
I'll try.
If I'm with you, I'm racking the fucking thing and we're done. Done. Walk away. I'm sorry. I'm probably kicking the arms of that leg press in and be like, no, I'm sorry, you're done. Roll out. You can be fucking pissed off. We're done. Um, but for you, okay, so that's what's funny, right? About the RPE, right? Is like I'm having to tell you, like, hey, like maybe we shouldn't take 8 sets to RP of 13 today.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, can we take them to 10? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so we're ratcheting that back down. So, this whole conversation started with a guy online because he sent me one of John's workouts from the first program, and it was 19 sets of legs. And he said, are all these to failure? And I kind of chuckled to myself reading it because I'm like, That's physically impossible. I've yet to see someone take 19 sets to 10 or above. You wouldn't last a session. You'd be dry heaving, you'd be throwing up, you'd be passed out, something. Your legs just wouldn't work. When we get together, if we're doing legs specifically, and that's hamstrings, quads, and adductors, and if you want to throw some, maybe like, let's say the lunging gives our glutes some work, or split squats, or fill in the blank, we're doing 6 to 8 sets total, max. Maybe 8. Because with the intensity we bring to that session and are feeding off of each other, and we're using intensity techniques like drop sets or force reps, or you're like yelling at me to do more reps, there's no way our bodies can take more than eight times of that. Now, do we do more sets? Yes, but we're only doing 8 working sets. And I think sadly, like, that's another thing that gets confused, is like, we don't count our warm-ups, we don't count our feeders. We only are counting the top or the final set and the back off set. And when I mean final set, I just mean the heaviest load we'll use for that day on that given exercise.
So when we actually push the gas pedal down.
Correct.
And I think that's kind of a fun concept, because like obviously we do more sets, right? Like the other day, like just like on a squat, for example, for me, generally I'm going to go 1 plate, hit it for 15.
Yep.
I probably could have done 40.
Yeah, right.
And then I'm going to go 2 plates. I'm going to do it for 8 to 10.
Yep.
I'm going to maybe, depending on how I feel, I might just jump up to 3.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Or do 2 1/4. Right. And I'll do that for 4 to 5. And then jump up to like my work set of, let's say 4. Let's just jump right into 4 plates. And sometimes, honestly, for me, that sometimes has been 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, I'm not doing straight quarters all the way up just because I don't want to.
Right. Yep.
Yep. And when 4's on there, 8's going to be really fucking difficult.
Yep.
And like, I'm going to be in that 10 area, right? And I might have like, that might help me on the last one. But the thing is, like, squats, it's very rare to actually take those to like actual failure.
Right. Yes. Yep.
Just because there's such a complicated movement and there's so much room for error. Yep. Like, I've taken squats really fucking far.
Right.
And I've left it in the rack plenty of times, but if I racked that, I didn't take it to failure.
Right. Yep. There's
no way in hell Zach is taking 405 and racking it for me. No. He's not just going to pick it up. He's a big dude, but he's not.
And honestly, I don't want that set of squats, freestanding squats, to failure anyways.
No.
I want there to be a little bit left so you can safely rack it and then collapse to the ground.
Exactly.
And honestly, if, let's say we were there in person and you were working through a set and I felt like you were going to eat it, I'm going to wrap my arms around your chest and stand you up. And then I'm going to help you into the rack with that. So I'm not letting you get that point where you're here, and then you start coming down. Like, and when I mean down, I mean it's fucking done. Like, if it starts coming down a little bit, I can use, for the most part, the people I've worked out with, like, I can get them up and in the rack. Yeah. And again, as you said, if I can do that, it's not failure, because you still are doing probably 75 to 80% of that weight to stand it up. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, again, I guess I'm really shocked by it. Maybe I've just studied bodybuilding or lifting so much, or maybe I understand what the concept of failure feels like. Where like, failure isn't, oh my God, the muscle's screaming, it's burning, my brain says stop. Like, that's not failure. I'm still going. I'm still moving the weight under control and in the tempo that I want it. And to me, like, until you lose, like, let's say you start losing that ability to control the negative, to me, like, then that's over. Because you are, again, not controlling the weight. We're bodybuilding. We aren't A to B. It's, are we controlling it with the desired muscle tissue?
Yeah. It's pretty funny. I think we've all been there with, if you've gone to the gym, you've worked out with a buddy, and you've trained arms together, right? You know where this point is, right? So you keep getting force reps, and then all of a sudden you can't even control the negative. Like, your buddy helps you to the top, and then he lets go, and it just whack. It hits you in the fucking legs because your arms are so fucked, right?
Right. Yep.
At that point, you're very much failure because you can't even control the negative.
Yes. Yep.
Most people, if you can do that, bring your legs to that point where you can't control the negative, right? It's a different story. I
Right.
feel like most people don't go there.
No. No.
You know, I've done it a couple things. I'm not saying I've ever done that with squats,
No.
you know, but there's plenty of times where, you know, leg curls, leg extensions, leg press, I've done it.
Yep.
And, you know, you have to take it. It's not exactly right. It's not where it starts to be painful. You actually kind of go, in my perspective, it goes past that point. You actually stop feeling pain because your legs are just numb.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
And you still got more.
Yep. You know, what the scenario you were just describing about curls, right? If you're giving me force reps and I get to that point where my arms, again, as you just said, go feel numb, like I'm like, oh, you just did that whole thing by yourself. You're like, no, I just helped a little bit. I'm like, the set's over then. Because I've lost all contractile force that muscle and I don't feel it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and we've all been there, like you're doing a curl and it's like that, it felt like you did the entire curl for me. And you're like, no, I helped a little bit. Okay, it's done. And like you said, like very rarely does anyone take legs there because it's excruciating. But you know, I think when you guys are assessing RPE, if you use that system, or if you're saying, hey, I need you to take a set to failure, I've started writing in people's programs like, I need that machine to bottom out. That's when the set's over. Don't completely ignore the rep range. And listen, you know, because I write your shit. I don't write reps on there for the most part. Not on the hard stuff. I'll give you a target on some things, but I expect you to know that if you got more, do it. But I'll say top and back and go until it's done.
Yep. Exactly.
And again, if you embrace that mindset, like I want to back off of a hack squat and I say, hey, I want you to finish in the hole. Okay, cool. Like you're not just going to sit down there and say, I got more in the tank. I'm just going to sit down. I'm done. Or at least I would hope you wouldn't.
Dude, so many people do. I don't know. It drives me up a wall, but have you seen the people who watch, right?
Huh?
They do these like choppy reps. They go up, back down,
Yeah.
up, back down.
Mhm.
And it's like, if you were there, because they're fucking with their head, they're allowing themselves to fail because they get these choppy reps because they're going up and back down,
Yeah.
right? Or you've seen it, like people go take a squat, they go up, they go halfway, and they go back in the hole, and then they go back up.
Right.
It's like, what the fuck was this? This stop.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that. Yes.
And it's like, oh, was that just your brain fucking with you there?
Right. Stand up and take that pain.
You're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is painful. It's not failure.
No, right. And I want to believe that we can teach this online. I really do. I want to believe I can say, okay, here's a video. Does your video look like this? No. Okay, cool. You're at 8. This is a 10. I need you to match it. But I think I forget sometimes too, like maybe people aren't visual learners. Sorry, say that again. Did it just cut out? It's so mine's good. I can't hear your volume now. Though. Oh, that's really weird. I can't hear you at all. Huh. My internet connection shows good. You want to try logging out and logging back on? Here, I'll text you. All right. So while he's figuring his out, I will continue to talk about RP. So what I want to think about here is when I can. Oh, it sounds a little choppy now.
Are you back?
Yes, I'm good.
Dude, I think my girlfriend just got in my car and connected to Bluetooth.
She's like, why can I hear them talking? That's great. Oh, I think it just connected again.
Keeps going back.
Yeah, it's good now. I can hear you now.
Okay, cool.
Oh, good.
Good,
Okay,
good.
so All right, let's wrap up this RPE thing. Like, all right, so a 10 is when you can't come up out of the hole of any lift and do it with good form. An 11, you start to cheat a little bit and use a little sloppy form. A 12 is when I start to use like intensity techniques, force reps, partials, drop sets, ISO holds. And then a 13, and I will always say what John says is you just go ape shit. There's no rhyme or reason. You just fucking go until the muscle dies.
Yeah.
And the amount of people who can truly do that is small.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you. It's the fucking truth. I've very rarely seen it. If you walk into any gym across the country, even some of the most hardcore gyms, you won't see that regularly every time you look around. You'll see a lot of 8s, a lot of 9s, maybe a 10 or 2, but the 13s, it's a special kind of sickness. And I'm sorry if you believe you think you go really hard, but I've seen batshit crazy and very few replicate it.
Yeah.
It's Any
I
final
feel
thoughts
you
on
there.
that?
There's that level of hardness, right? And it's kind of just that it's a skill.
Yes. Yep.
It's from seeking it out and trying to find it.
Agreed.
It's not just something like I can go there with some things.
Mhm. Yep.
I'm not amazing. I can't do it with everything.
No.
But I can do it with I can get me on a leg press. Fuck it. I can go there.
Right.
You know, get me on a hack squat. I can do that.
Right.
But like some chest press things, yes, like
Yep.
dumbbell incline, totally fine.
Right.
But like on like a lot of back things, for me, my form just starts going to fuck all.
Agreed.
So that's what the limiting factor for me is because
Yes.
everything else starts helping out. So it's like I honestly just need to stop because at that point it's just I'm using my erectors for everything.
Agreed.
And then arms are kind of funny because like I don't know if I've ever gone like I said batshit crazy with arms, but it's just a pain tolerance thing for me at
Yes.
least.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's not like it's not inherently hard. Like it's painful.
Right.
I'm curling a 30. It's not heavy.
Right.
You just learn how to make it really painful.
Arms to me are kind of like calves. And I think you and I talked about that. Like
Yeah.
that time when we were at pros, like that may have been one of the hardest sessions of calves I've done in a long time. And it wasn't like, as you said, it's not crazy, but the pain was just so excruciating. It was hard to walk.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Like arms are that way. Like you just have to fight it. It's almost they get so pumped they become non-functionable.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm with you. Like I think honestly, like that's why my back is so lagging, or I think it's been that way in the past. I used to get pissed off at it, and I would go ape shit on it. And the next thing you know, I'm pulling my biceps, I'm pulling my traps, I'm pulling my erectors. My lats take none of that heat because I'm just fucking angry and pulling a
Yep.
dumbbell as many times as it moves.
Yep.
I mean, listen, you've trained me. I'm good at pulling fucking weight, but
Yep.
not with my lats.
Yeah. I'm the same way. My lats would be like, if anybody else can take this load, they'll give it to you.
Yes, it wants to share.
Versus like my quads are the opposite.
Yeah, right.
They're like, yeah, go fuck you. We got this.
Right.
We don't want any help. Get out of here, glutes.
Agreed. I really believe in my heart. Like that's why my legs and my shoulders are so good because it's just about just like brutal to the face, just go until your body collapses.
Yeah.
And that's why those muscles took off and they grew because it's like they want to take all the weight. And I'm like, okay, cool, got it. I don't have to think
Oh,
about
exactly.
it at all.
Yeah. You just turn it off and just move.
Right. It's very similar to hamstrings. Like you pin us in a leg curl, cool. We will trash that fucking muscle. And then
Mhm.
that's why we have hamstrings that hang, right? Because
Yeah.
it doesn't take any skill, it just takes heart.
Yeah.
So, all right, we wrapped up RP. All right, so let's get into can you train with us? So, I think the most logical thing to start, or most logical place to start, is, in my mind, instead of me speaking about it, I'll just get you to talk about what it was like to train with me the handful of times that we've done it.
Honestly, I kind of a fun thing because honestly, it felt like home. It felt very, very normal to what I usually do. And that's just kind of how it is. I mean, it was just me and you trying to kill each other for an hour and a half, hour to hour and a half. You know, they weren't long, but it was just like we just nailed exercises we both are good at. We've done a million times.
Yep.
And we just cranked.
Yeah.
But the thing, you know, that's kind of where that comes into play, right? Both of us know how to crank.
Yeah. Yep.
Form isn't like an issue. We've been training for a while.
Yes. Yep.
You know, and we both have very similar mindsets when it comes to a lot of things.
Agreed.
You know, like there's always that, like nowadays there's the crowd where they all want to, they want to contract their muscles the entire time. And like for me, my perspective is like on a top set, you can't just, you're not going to contract those into, you just need to get and lock into the movement and move weight, right? And if you're locked in correctly, it's on the target muscle.
Agreed.
And if you're setting so much time away to think of like, how is this contracting? It's like either that workout isn't good for you.
Yep.
Or you're wasting your fucking time.
Agreed.
Right.
Yep.
Because if you're locked in, it should be on your target muscle.
Yes.
And if you have to think and move a top end weight, one of those isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I can't count the fucking 10 on a hack squat.
Nope.
I have no idea how many reps I'm doing. All I know is up and down. Like I'm legitimately going to go until I feel my hamstrings press into my calves.
Yep.
And then I'm going to come up with it.
Yes.
And I'm going to repeat that until I can't.
Right.
It's pretty fucking simple, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I don't need to think about my quads contracting. I don't need to squeeze jack shit.
Nope.
My fucking quads job is to squeeze. That's how I'm getting out of the hole.
Yeah, right.
Like if I had to sit there and like, okay, cool, I need to squeeze my quads like I'm doing a leg extension. It's like, first off, your load's gonna go down the toilet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could probably put a plate on a hack squat and just squeeze and be painful.
Oh, yeah.
Would I grow? Fuck no.
No.
My leg's fine doing 6-7 plates on a hack squat.
Yep.
Do I think I'm gonna do anything with a plate?
Right. Yeah. Besides warm up, no.
Yeah. So it's like that concept. That's like, so neither of us are sitting there squeezing when we're locked in. Like, cool, we'll do it on the warm up sets and feel, but there's a time and place for that.
Agreed. Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And basically, it's just going to be that. I mean, neither of us have time in a workout to look at our phone,
no.
Text message. Like the amount of like, I'm pretty sure like our heart rate's at like 140 when you're doing your set, when I'm just standing watching you.
Yep. Yep. And when I'm watching you, I'm so fucked up from the previous set. I'm just trying to help.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. What you just said was huge, right? Is because we're not going to teach like that. If you're going to legit do a training session with us, like our job is not to teach. Like I'm not, if I have to teach you how to do a hack squat, it's not the time or the place.
Yeah.
And it's just not, it's not going to be beneficial for me. It'll be beneficial for you. But if you're training with us, know that we have very specific goals that we're not going to abandon.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just say, hey, come catch me after my workout and I'll train you as a client. If you're joining us for workouts, it's a very different experience. Like,
yeah.
There's a handful of things, like I'm trying to think like off the top of my head, when we trained American Barbell and I was showing like, hey, like I want you to do your pull downs this way and try it.
Mm-hmm.
It took me less than a minute to explain to you.
Yeah.
I did a set so you could see it. And then you went and I said, how does that feel? You're like, it feels fucking great. All right, cool. Next. Like, and now it's time to work up to our top set and do a back off. Like, I think what you also said about like being cute with the weight, the top set is not the time for that. We are moving maximum load for maximum reps. The back off I've always viewed, it's like, okay, now let's be fucking flawless rep execution with a little bit less weight and take that bitch to failure.
Yeah.
Easy as that. So if I'm doing an incline dumbbell press on the 150s, I'm just going to be cooking those fuckers. We drop down to 100. I'm suddenly going to come down. I want to pause. I'm going to come up. I'm going to contract. Still reaching failure. When I do that, if I say I hit 8 or 10 on the top set, if I do my form like that with the hundreds, it's going to be around 8 to 12 because the time under tension increases and my rep execution becomes like hyper exaggerated, meaning pause in the hole, pause the contraction. So I think a lot of times people like mistake when they may see us like lift a top set and post it online, like, oh, well, that was pretty ballistic. That was explosive. You were moving that way. Okay, cool. But you didn't see the back off with 225 where I owned every single inch of that. And oh, by the way, that 315 on the incline, I was owning every inch and I can feel it. You just can't mirror that form because you don't have enough muscle or experience.
Yeah.
So I think that's very lost. I think, like, when you see people talk like shit about Jay or Branch's training or shit, even Ronnie for that matter, like, oh, that was garbage. I'm like, not for them. They were on that muscle and crushing it. You can't do that because you don't have the experience or the tissue. As you get bigger, you can move weights with power and still be in control of it. And I think that's what a lot of times, like, if you aren't doing this, like, listen, fun training to me is not doing, if I had to count 5-second negatives on every rep, dude, I want to blow my fucking face off.
Dude, it blows my mind. There's some people who are like, oh, I'm doing this exact tempo. And it's like, you're fucking counting it. Like, I can go slow in the negative. Zero problem with that.
Yep.
I have no fucking idea of how long it takes.
Nope.
Like I said, I think I just said that 10 seconds ago. I can't count to 10 when I'm doing hack squats.
No.
I've never once in my life been able to count how many reps I did on a hack squat.
Right.
You ask Zach, if I pulled my training partner in every single time after legs, I was like, how many reps was that? And he'll be like, 14, right? I'll be like, all right, cool.
Yep.
And then I'll gauge where it was from last week. But I legitimately have zero idea where that falls.
Yes.
Like, obviously, I know I'm doing more than 4.
Right.
Like, I'm not retarded. I know it's up there, but like, I honestly, I'm not giving a shit about counting because it's taken away from everything else I'm trying to do. And like, so many people get obsessed with all the other things.
Yep.
And it's like, you're all aware you're taking away from your intensity.
Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
And that's fine. Like, if you want to do that on your back off set, have at it. But
Agreed.
Realize you're not going to piss off your muscle enough if you're counting, your 4-second negative, your 2-second pause, your 2-second concentric, your complete reps there. All of those things are taking away from your brain's ability to fire that muscle.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? And then if you talk about positioning, right? You're like, oh, my wrist is like this. It's like, just lock those things in place first.
Yeah.
And then go. You don't need to keep making adjustments because it's, especially if you're in a fucking machine.
Right.
There's no real need to, like.
No. What you're just talking about there, I think, is something else that people like really obsess about, and it's the wrong shit. The timing of everything. The amount of times people say, how long should my rest periods be? Until you're ready to go again. We have never once timed a rest period between the two of us together. And it's the same way when I train alone. Like, you just go. How long did you rest there? I don't know, 60 seconds, a minute, 90 seconds. Oh, we just did a triple drop set, probably 4 or 5 minutes. Like,
right. And then they're going to be like, oh, well, if you don't know how to standardize it, how do you get better?
Fuck.
Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Like, yeah. Like, put the fucking stopwatch down, bro. Like, they want to make everything so perfect except for the thing that matters, and it's the set. Guess what? You just thought you did a 10 RPE. It was really a 6, but everything else was perfect. I would say you failed that session, where if you threw all that fucking timing out and nailed that set, that's what's the important thing. Do that, then go home and eat. I bet you took 2 twins and gave you those scenarios that this one's going to grow like a weed and this one's going to barely make progress. But, they have their fucking little log books and they have all the things that are cute and they look like a lifter. You have your oversized t-shirt and you're trained with JP sweatpants on. Cool, bro. You just ignored all the shit that he's teaching, and that's do hard sets. and get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like that's what most people like don't realize is again, if you're to bring it back to the topic at hand, if you met with us and said, "Hey, we're going to do legs today," I'm going to say, "Okay, cool. Like we're going to do leg curl, adductor, leg press, hack squat, and then something fucking hard." And like, what do you mean? You would know what I meant because you've
Yeah.
been how many sets and reps? I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get into the workout.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you mean? I don't know how strong you are. I don't know how many sets we're going to do that day. We may do a set of hack squat that doesn't need a back off. So why am I going to marry myself to that? We may take a set to the fucking end on a hack. And I'll look at you like, you need a back off? Fuck no.
Yeah.
Like, we may do the same thing with adductor. We may go so bananas that our adductor is going to rip. Do we need a back off? Fuck. No, we don't. Like, so there is no need for this. And I know like it feels so good to have everything precise and laid out, and it may go against the grain of so much shit. Like, but if you work out with us or train with one of us, I feel like that's what the session's gonna look like. You're gonna say, "Hey, like here's roughly what Chris wants me to do. We're gonna get after it today." Well, you said you're gonna do Nautilus press, but we're doing dumbbell press. That's because I was in the mood of dumbbell press. Damn it.
Yeah. Exactly. And, oh my god, it's pretty funny. Yeah, this was a while ago. I had a kid ask to train me and Zach, and we were like, "Sure, let's give it a go."
Yeah.
And it was funny. So he's like, "What are we going to do today?" And I was like, "Hamstring curl, leg press, that squat, and we'll see what happens from there." And he's like, "What do you?" He's like, "That's it." I was like, when we got to that squat, and he was fucking contemplating life,
Right.
I was like, "So what do you want to do? What's hard?" And the look on his face when his like, we took his soul,
Yeah.
right? Yep. He's like, "Oh, we're not done." I was like, "Oh, by the way, that was like 5 sets."
Right.
You know.
Yep.
And he trained his fucking ass off. Like, props to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he did a fucking great job. It was eye opening because he's probably wondering what the fuck he's been doing for the last, whatever time he's been in the gym. Because we get so convoluted in all these different practices and things, and it's like high volume, low volume. It comes down to it is doing better than you did before.
Yes.
And working harder than you have, right? And then on the backside with food, that's a different story. But in simplifying training, it's basically just like, have you done it before, and can you beat that?
Yes. Yep.
That's all change is.
Agreed.
And there's obviously a million avenues for that, but like I could find ways to overcomplicate this entire thing, and make it flashy or whatever, just to try to sell you something.
Right. Yep.
But in the end of the day, it's just going to be like, work harder than you did before in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Yeah. And go from there.
Yep. I'll tell a story, 2 stories here. Like, one about, you just said you had a kid join. So years ago, and God rest his soul, because the poor kid's legit dead. He said, "Chris, like, I want to train with you." So he did a chest session, chest shoulders. He did back, did pretty well. But he was like, "Fuck, man, that was crazy." He's like, "I can't wait to try legs with you." So we do seated leg curls on, well, it's a Strive piece. For you guys who don't know what Strive is, it's Prime. Seated leg curls. We did adductor. So 2 sets there, 2 set adductor. And then I showed him what a set of failure quads was on leg extensions. He shook my hand and said, "Thanks." And I was like, "For what?" Well, he's like, "I thought he was saying thanks for the set." He was like, "Hell of a workout today." And I was like, "We haven't got to the fun stuff yet." And he was like, "Oh, there's more." Like, motherfucker couldn't walk, like completely locked up in hamstrings, adductors, and quads. And then we went and leg press, and we'd hack squat. And then he watched me do lunges because he couldn't handle it, as he was profusely throwing up in the trash can. And I'll always tell that story because it's like, I guarantee if I said to him on paper, like, "Hey, we're going to do leg curls, adductors, and leg extensions," he'd be like, "Okay, cool. Like, that's not hard." In that moment, he thought we were fucking done.
Yeah.
Because his muscles had never felt that level of pain before in hamstrings, adductors, and quads. Now, again, I'm not trying to paint some picture that like, hey, we're better than everyone else. But the way we do those three exercises, most people have never experienced that because it's a different way of setting leg training up. Most people, it's some leg extensions, then it's squatting, then it's leg press, and they do some half-ass leg curls, and then they're done. It's way different when you get on a leg curl and you do a triple drop with partials and iso hold. And suddenly,
Mhm.
like, oh man, I can't walk because my hamstrings are so tight. And you do adductors, which most guys don't do. It's like, man, I've never felt that before. And then you show them a set of failure on leg extensions where they're doing partials and doing force reps. They're fucked. Like, and then like, oh man, now we're going to leg press and hack squat, and we're going to load both of those machines up. Yeah. And we're going to do high reps too. We're going to do 15 to 30, 12 to
Mhm.
30, 12 to 50. Like, it's almost overwhelming for the system and the mind. But then
Mhm.
once you get into it and you're used to that, 3, 4 weeks, you're like, okay, man, like I can really start to work off of this. So, I mean, I think that's the overriding principle there is like what you said is on paper, it may sound beyond easy,
Mhm.
but the application is where the magic is. The full
Well,
execution.
that's the funny thing is because sometimes I've seen workouts that you sent me, and I'm like, this motherfucker is crazy,
Right. Right.
right? And I show that to other people, and they're like, that's it. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like I could probably do half of this workout, and
Yep.
I'm gonna be so fucked,
Hmm.
you know?
Yep. Agreed.
And it's the it's exactly that. It's like so many people get they you could write down. I've actually seen. I had a program coming to like I was like, I had a new client. I was like, what are you doing? And she sent me over her workout plan. Her leg day was 45 sets.
Mm.
But I was like, how long does this take you? She's like 3 hours. And I was like, what does this look like? You know what I mean? And so that tells me two things, right? It's just a lot of work,
Yeah.
but not actual effort.
Yes.
Because
Agreed.
those go hand in hand, right? That's just anything. We all know this, right?
Yeah.
If you're throwing down tile at a job site,
Mm.
right, you can do it really fucking well,
Yep.
but you're not gonna be able to do a lot of it,
No.
right? It's just how it is, right? Anything in life, right? If you do it well, you can't do a lot of it.
Yeah.
I can do a fuck ton of really shit work.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean jack crap, right?
Right.
But all of a sudden apply that to bodybuilding, and you're like, oh, cool, right? You know, it's one of those, you can't like. There's a lot of too much working out, but not enough work.
Yes. Yeah.
You know,
I think
because
people realize this too is we can make you tired. But there's difference between tired and progress or
yeah,
progressive workouts where you actually apply yourself and get better. And I think that so many people fucking forget that. Like, as I will always get back to this, like I could go in and put you on a treadmill at 15 incline and take the speed up over and over again, and I'll get you to tap out. Is that going to put any growth on your muscle, any muscle in your body? No. But would you leave the gym feeling tired and it'd be like hard, and you wake up the next day and you'd probably be sore in some weird fucking places? Yes. It's not progress. It's literally as simple as that. Like, because as you said, what do you say, 40 sets? At past 12, you're going through the motions and you're just doing it.
yeah, exactly, exactly, and that's what it's. Well, dude, you walk into a leg day knowing you have 45 sets to do. You're in wrestling. You're gonna sandbag that shit,
Yep.
right? You're gonna
Yep.
get a flag. You're sandbagging,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's exactly what people are gonna do. You're gonna be like, oh, cool. We're just you're wasting fucking time.
Yes. Agreed. Like, wouldn't you just rather go hard for an hour and get the fuck out of there?
Yeah.
My thought process, like, let's cut all that, for lack of a better word, junk volume, and
Hmm.
let's do a couple hard sets of glutes and a couple sets of hamstrings and quads. Do those 6 sets with the max of your ability. It might take us 35 minutes, and you will be fucking cooked. The muscle.
Hmm.
But that concept has literally gone out the window.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, well, I see that all the time. Like, oh well, I train hard. Well, there's a difference between training hard and training long. Just because you're in the gym for 3 hours doesn't mean it's hard or effective.
Hmm.
That correlation to me has never registered. Um, and let's say you and I went in there and legit like just threw down 20 sets of, I mean, I'm talking just brutal to the face. We wouldn't be able to train for the next day or two.
Yeah.
You couldn't. You would be too fucked up here in central nervous system. The idea of probably even doing cardio, and like, I mean, I've had sessions, I'm sure you have too, where went so hard your appetite goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I think I was just telling you about that the other day. Like I've put myself in shock multiple times.
right. Yes.
Like I'm legitimately driving home and my heart rate's still high enough, but I can't function. And my body's like, I've legitimately had to sit down in the shower before to not pass out. And that's an hour after my fucking workout.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, maybe that was difficult,
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a reason why people don't go there. It's because it's hard. Shit, like my leg day, dude, me and Zach both were throwing up. Right?
Yep.
After that leg, like that drive home fucking sucked.
Oh yeah.
Because the entire time, like obviously my appetite was completely gone.
Oh yeah.
And I was trying not to go into shock. I was trying not to zone out and fall asleep.
Yep. You have that weird, like coldish sweat. It's almost like you're going hypo. Your brain's like racing all over the place with all these like crazy weird scenarios. Like, oh, did I do too much today? Like, what the fuck? Am I gonna have a heart attack? Where's my blood pressure at? Like, most don't experience that, sadly. And when I used to train people in person, man, like, so my training partner and I would go in there and just rage, right? The amount of times I would have to like go from that, flipping that switch off to going and training people and wondering how I was even going to stand for the rest of that session because I thought I was going to pass out or throw up. And the client would be like, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good." And just completely downplaying how awful I fucking felt. Where I'm like, man, I think I might have to go tell them I got to use the bathroom real fast and go throw up. Like, that scenario is real if you go that crazy. And I mean, you told me about that session. I was like, fuck. I had all this like FOMO of like, man, I would have loved to have been there.
Yeah. It was a great day.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 I think, so another point you touched on that I wanted to talk about was, you were talking about like, did you go hard? And I think that's a huge point too, is like, when you come into town, you haven't been on the machines that we use at Elite. So, I mean, unless it's like the hammer strength incline or let's say that Cybex row that I know you have one of. So you have a relative gauge of where your strength's going to be. But like when you get on that pec deck, you have no clue how much weight to do. And it's important saying like, oh, well, I did 150 at home. 150 here is the same. Well, as you know, like it's not like, or Dwayne's hack squat, for example, that thing is smooth as hell. Like you can put a lot more plates on that than you can that Cybex one that you have to use. Like that Cybex one's going to crush you. That flex piece we have at Elite, you can load that thing up with a lot of plates. Or, for example, like if you do the true squat here, it's the same as your true squat. So you have a gauge. Like, so I think like when we travel to another gym, like American Barbell or Elite, like unless you're picking up dumbbells or a bar, if you're on a machine, the premise is just go hard. It isn't necessarily beating your numbers. Which is hard for, again, that progressive overload crowd who wants everything written to the T. Like when we went to American Barbell, there's no way in hell we're training back and not doing every exercise that we did, which was all the prime shit, the Arsenal T-bar. I don't have access to that during the week or during the training week. So what? I'm going to go do all my same shit that I always, no, fuck that. I'm going to go use that prime equipment. Well, you and I think there was a couple of times where we either loaded too much weight or not enough weight. Guess what? We set it down and said, that's a little bit too much. Let's pull some off. Or we started the set and said, can you pull a plate? Like, at the end of the day, we walked away from that back session. Both of us were like, man, that was a good workout. But we have no barometer for if we improved our strength that day.
Yeah. Well, there goes your progressive overload. Like, yes, progressive overload is obviously a thing, but some people will get so butthurt about it because it's like, oh, I'm not training my muscle in this specific action anymore. It's like, if you did a press, are you pushing this way? Your body doesn't know if you're in a fucking like if you're in a flex piece or in a hammer strength piece.
Right.
It knows up.
Yes.
It doesn't even know your muscles don't even know you're in a fucking gym.
No.
That's like the best part about all of this, right? Is so many people get so like, or they overlook that entire aspect. They're like, oh, I can't progress because it's like, well, what would happen if your fucking gym burned down tomorrow and you had to go to a different gym? Are you going to lose all of your fucking gains
Right. Right.
because you have different equipment? No, you know what I mean? And it's like you're just overthinking this process a little bit too much, right? It's the mechanism is hard shit.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not machine. It's not what machines you did.
Right. Yeah.
It's legitimately finding ways to put that muscle in a mechanical disadvantage and squeezing the shit and working the shit out of it
Right.
and doing that time after time. Doing it once doesn't matter. It's the 60th time of doing that similar motion does
Yes.
not mean it needs to be the same.
No. No. And I think we all learned that through the C word, right? Like we trained where we could train and we were grateful for it.
Yeah.
Like the gym I worked out at was a studio that I'd owned at the time. The dumbbells only went to 100. I wasn't gonna, and even though I love incline dumbbell pressing, I wasn't going to cry myself to sleep because I had to do a hammer strength press and then a barbell press and then go to the dumbbells. Like my chest didn't get worse.
Mhm.
I just had to reorder the exercise. Like when I was there too, I didn't have a peg deck. I didn't cry about it. I didn't have a leg extension. Didn't care. I didn't have an adductor machine, but we still found ways to tax that muscle. Like
Mhm.
as you said, the modality to me has always been there are things that we like or lean to, but the modality of the exercise doesn't matter. It's did the muscle get effectively worked? Yes or no? And I think when it comes down to it, like, and to kind of rein us back in on what our topic was, is if you do step in the gym with either of us or together at the same time, we expect 100% effort start to finish. And that's it. I don't care about your weights. I'd like for you to get a massive pump, but if it's not as big as ours, I don't care. Or if it's bigger than ours, I don't care. Like it stems down to effort and
Mhm.
always reminding yourself, or it's what I remind myself of, because honestly, like before any hard session, I'm going to get anxious. And I know most people, when they go travel to train with their coach or someone they look up to, or just someone they haven't ever worked out with, there's a level of like uncertainty. Like, am I going to be able to tolerate this? If you're asking yourself that, you're not ready. It's I'm gonna find a way to get through it. And it's here. It's just the mindset of it's only 60 to 90 minutes. Because if you train with us, it's never going to be more than 90 minutes. Like, unless someone gets hurt.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
you're exactly right there. It's just the on and off switch. Too many people go into the gym and their switch is already off.
yeah,
It's not going to matter what you fucking do at that point. Like you're more or less just going to keep staying the same.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, okay, I'll tell this, and this is not a great example. I by no means recommend people follow this, but when you were in the last time, my knee was so banged up, and I did not give a fuck. It hurt the
Mhm.
whole time, start to finish. Every leg extension, every leg press, the true squat, it fucking was awful. And I told Chris, I was like, I don't care if this knee fucking blows off. Like, we're going to train hard and we're going after it today. And he was like, are you sure? I'm like, there's nothing to be sure about. It's fucking happening. You can either be a part of it or you can't. And he was
Mhm.
like, oh, I want to be a part of it. Okay, cool. And when you left, man, that my knee was so swollen. Guess what? Didn't give a fuck.
Mhm.
Like, because it's here. Like, if I knew in my heart, if the pain in my quads, hamstrings, or glutes were so extreme, I wouldn't feel my knee until after the session was over. And it was the
Mhm.
truth. My knee didn't bother me until we finished, and I was like, oh man, that's really fucked up. But again, it comes back to this is the strongest muscle in our body, or can be the weakest.
Mhm.
And I think that's what so few realize or fail to realize. Like, I sent you that hit cardio I did yesterday of me pulling the prowler, right? All day I've been thinking about that because yesterday was day one for me of doing that. And I hadn't done hit, like real hit, in a while. And all day I was thinking about it. And I trained chest and shoulders. And I came home and I ate a meal. And Chad's like, when you want me to come over? And I was like, about 2:33. We filmed a few workouts, a few videos. And he's like, are you ready? And I was like, yeah. He's like, see, I can tell like you're just like next level, like you're like itching to get at it. And I was like, man, it feels like I have like some serious anxiety about this. I know how hard it's going to be. But as him and I were talking afterwards, he's like, he's like, you just handled that. Like, you just took that shit on the chin, and listen, it was hard as fuck. And I was like, yeah, because I may have anxiety warming up on that bike. The moment I said, hey, start to watch, all that shit melts away. All the anxiety goes away. And it's just like, okay, hey, I have 6 minutes of hell. That's it. If I can't endure 6 minutes of my lungs feeling like they're going to explode, my quads being pumped to the end limit, and my back like feeling like it can't row one more time for 6 minutes, like I don't belong in this sport. And it always reminds me of that quote, like, I don't know if you've ever seen it, where it said, aging is the relentless pursuit of comfort. And that's so powerful to me, right? Is I feel like as most people age, they're seeking comfort, where I feel like we're still attacking ways to make life hard. Ice baths, training sessions, cardio. How long can we follow a meal plan, even though we may not feel like putting that shit in our mouth? Like, that to me is what life is about. That may turn into a deeper statement than we care to elaborate or go into at this point. But I think like I could have easily like mailed it in and just bullshitted my way through that 6 minutes yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And when I do it again on Saturday, I'm not going to have a camera on me, so it'd be easy to just maybe not pedal so hard on that bike, or road with not as much aggression and not try to pull it as far as I could, like, because no one's watching. But guess who would know? Me.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
We'll feel like shit the rest of the day.
Yeah. That's the one thing I think is like probably I'm wired the same way. I had a great mentor growing up. He used to play in the NFL actually.
Oh yeah.
And he would be like, because they all watched film and everything. And he would relate it back to that. Everything he did in life. He's like, the eye in the sky never lies. He was talking about the video camera in the fucking stadium. He's like, you could have made any excuse you wanted for not catching that fucking ball. But, that fucking thing doesn't lie. If you didn't play that play right, you could have said anything. You heard it wrong, right? You didn't hear the play right.
Yep.
Nope. It was you. And it's on you. And everything in your life needs to be that way, right?
Yep.
That's how I operate, right? If I say I'm doing something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Yep.
Right? If I'm forced into doing something, like, cool, I might not. Like, obviously, I don't give 100% to everything in my life. Some things I don't give a shit about.
Agreed.
Right? But the things I do give a shit about, I don't understand why you would just fall off half-ass it. Right? Like, if you've given me a meal plan, I'm going to follow that. It's not a question of if I feel like it. It's this is happening.
Yes. Yep.
It's that switch. Same thing with training. If you say hard sets on a hack squat, I'm going to find the ways to make that the hardest fucking thing I can do.
Right. Yep.
I'm not going to skirt around and be like, oh, cool. Well, maybe if I do 3 plates, but do it this way, I can make my life easier. Nope, fuck that. I don't want to make it harder.
Yep. And I think that's something that people don't think about either, right? Like, I'm sure if you experience this, you're on cardio and you have like 30 minutes left or 12 minutes left, and you're like, man, I could get off of this any minute if I wanted. Or, and then that turns into, man, I wonder how many people get off now because it sucks. And then it turns into, fuck this, take that incline up. I'm gonna finish this 12 minutes with purpose. In the same way, like, I've been in the gym, empty gym, training alone, and been like, I could walk out of here doing 2 sets of lunges today. Or I could do that third one and stop being a bitch. Right? Like, and I always think, like, how many people just say, fuck it, I'm done today. I'm good.
Yep.
That was okay. Like, and I'll always go back to so many, and I think that's why so many people have average physiques, is they accept average like performance. Where I'm like, no, fuck that. Like, I did 2 sets. Yes, they were good, but I have a little bit more left in that tank. Let's empty it. Like, why go home with any doubt in my mind? And there's that difference between average, good, and excellent that I think is what separates a good session from an okay session. And then if you stack up shitty or average sessions, you're going to make average progression and you're gaining 1 or 2 pounds of muscle, or none. And then it's like, oh, I just waited just an entire off season being normal. Fuck that. a whole year, you ate shitty fucking food for a year, and you went to the gym away from your family for 2 hours a day in terms of like round trip for average workouts. Fuck that. No. Because guess what? If I sit in front of a computer and took those 2 hours and applied myself like I do in the gym, I'd make a fuckload more money. So if I'm going to trade that, I'm going to make that time worth it, right? Or if I'm going to be
Yeah.
with my wife, like, what, I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. It may be 5 years, 20 years, 50 years. But if I spent time away from her being half-assed in the gym, that's stupid. Or my kids, fill in the blank. Like, I think that's what I always kind of go back to. If I'm going to be in here, motherfucker, I'm going to put it to work.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I
Well,
get so frustrated when I look around.
exactly. I've never understood exactly that. I've never understood like something in me when I was like 17 was like, I want to try this bodybuilding thing.
Right.
It wasn't. I see no purpose in getting a meal plan and be like, oh, I could follow this 80%.
Right. Yep.
Or getting a workout plan and be like, I could take this easy.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it just comes down to that. It's just like, why would I?
Right. Yep.
You get one chance at this whatever shot we have. It's like, why would I want to fuck around with these things? Like, of course, yeah, like things would be, that's why we got into this. It's to see how much, like half of that's, the reason why we like bodybuilding is the control aspect,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And the difficult aspect.
Yes.
Right? That's what makes bodybuilding fun. That's why all of us like bodybuilding.
Right.
Right? And then for whatever reason, those two aspects of things are the two things people drop off.
Yes.
And then
Yep.
all of a sudden they don't like bodybuilding. It's like, well, no shit. That's why we all like bodybuilding, is the difficult and the control.
Yeah.
Right? If you lose both of those, you're not fucking bodybuilding anymore. You're just fucking floating around.
Right. Yes. And that's what I think what's really interesting about that too is I'm sure you've experienced it. Like there's a handful of people who go all in and are like, you know what, I'm gonna do this shit. I got it. And then 1, 2, 3 years down the road, they're like, I want no part of this crazy shit anymore. I can't take it mentally. I can't take one more day of following a plan or my whole day revolving around those 6 sets of legs. Like, and I always kind of, that's why I always head nod like the older guy, the guys that are got a decade on me who are still in there banging away, right? I'm like, you're still in here doing this shit. And you've been doing it for 10 more years than me. And I know what my body feels like. Like, respect, man. Like, that's crazy impressive. Because, the young kids who get into it, I'm like, oh, man, you're still hungry for it. Like, you still wake up every day and you think about bodybuilding all day. How long is that going to last? Are you going to be like everyone else and it just slowly fades? Or are you going to be like me and you, where it's like every day we wake up and we look forward to it?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, through that process, like, why some people lose that fire and others, it gets harder. Like, I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that question. Like, because when people are like, man, you still love this shit. I'm like, God, yeah, or I wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Dude,
said,
I know for a fact, like, whatever people want to believe in, but like, I think all of us were here for a purpose, or we were made to do things.
yes.
And I know for a goddamn right, my body was meant to do hard shit.
Yes.
Like, I was meant to pick up, like, my ancestors were probably building fucking people's castles. We weren't the kings in the palace. We were the ones fucking chopping rocks down and moving them across things. Yep. I can tell you that because my joints are thicker than anybody I know.
Right.
My body was meant for hard shit.
Right.
Like, if I wasn't doing hard shit, I'd probably be insane. I'd probably be locked up somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
I'd be finding my ways into drugs or women or whatever to try to figure out that void, what my body wants.
Right.
Right. It obviously wants to do hard shit. Like, I would either be working a manual labor job, being a lumberjack in the forest or something, or bodybuilding. And I happen to be born in a period of time where I don't have the ability to just work in a fucking forest. It's not a thing anymore.
Right. Like, right. Yeah. Yeah. It's really funny. I've never really thought about that aspect. That's really like funny and comical when you think about it. Like, if you take my body type, I was probably meant to hunt and like hide in caves and shit. Because I'm the opposite of you. I have small joints and I'm supposed to be skinny as hell. So I'm probably meant to run from tigers.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Because that's always the question to me, the question, like, if you could look at an almighty being, God, whatever you want to call it, and ask like the universe a question and get legit the truth, is that's what I'd want to know. Is is the ability to go full tilt on something genetic? Is it something that can be matured and brought out of with like a mentor, an environment, a situation, or trauma? Or is the people who don't have that ability to flip that switch, will they never have it? Like, I'd love to know that question. Because, God, at this point in my life, like, I've trained in person so many people and worked with so many people online. Like, I want to know why I can't teach some people that. Like, just fucking go all in. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, I gotta have this, or I have to have, like, no, you don't have to have any of that garbage. Like, what if you just bought into the program 100%?
Mm-hmm.
And, I wish I knew that answer, because it would make life a lot easier for me mentally. Because I'm always trying to figure out, like, in my mind, I'm thinking everyone that I work with is a puzzle. I got to crack that puzzle, and then I'm going to show them the light. And I'll tell a quick story here before we wrap this up. Like, I had a lady who, she was a crazy wealthy executive, worked in a company. I trained her 3 days a week. She would work really hard for me in the gym. But when she was left to her own devices, man, she would eat garbage. She would pound alcohol. She'd find every excuse in the world not to come in and do her cardio or her training sessions that I wrote for her to do on her own. And like, I never forget, we were in a workout together. And listen, man, she'd given me so much money. And I just, I felt bad, like I was stealing from her. And I was looked at her and I was like, I won't say her name because that'd be really fucked up. But she was like, I looked at her, I said, you have the ability to manage thousands of staff. You have millions of dollars on the line every single day, and you work your ass off. Why in the fuck can't you manage what goes into your mouth? And literally, those are my exact words to her. No, mind you, I barely made probably $100,000 at that point. She was in the millions of money. Like, I was a peon in terms of her life and the people she hung around with. And she stared at me, and I didn't know if she was going to fire me or cry.
Yeah.
And she goes, first of all, no one's ever spoken to me that way. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm about to get a manager report. And she's like, and two, you're exactly right. And I cannot believe I've never figured that out. And from that day forward, she was flawless on the meal plan. And I still see her on Facebook, and she hasn't gained a bit of that body fat back. And it's really interesting to me because I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that was someone who had made excuses her entire life. She's mid-30s. Until that point, until someone just said to her, when are you going to start being accountable to yourself? And then that switch clicked. And then from now on, for the rest of her life, she'll always remember that moment. Because if I see her around town, she'll still remind me of it. She's like, you remember when you cursed at me that day in the gym? I'm like, yeah. Like, it's really interesting because most people would have just given up on someone like that. Like, oh, you know what? She's always going to be fat. She's always going to be lazy. She's always going to, like, she's never going to make progress. She's going to continue to come in and pay you money just so she feels good about herself. And, I've always felt that it's my responsibility to call people out on that shit. Like, you don't pay me to be your friend. You have plenty of friends. You pay me to make you better. And that's what I always think about, like, to wrap this up, like, when you train with me, that's my purpose. Is I'm there to make you better and push the fucking envelope. And then I'm there holding myself accountable. Like, I have to crank and I have to show him by example what I expect. Because if I'm in there doing sets of 8 RPE and I'm expecting you to go to 12, that's bullshit. I better fucking kill myself. And then guess what? I get out of that machine. This is really interesting because Chris will remind me of this all the time. He's like, you murdered yourself in that true squat and you got out and you looked at him and said, make me look like a bitch. Yeah. I showed you what I expected, and then I expect you to beat it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think many people in that situation would have responded the way you do, which was got in there and got to work. They got fucking freaked out. I'm like, man, like, I don't think I can go harder than that. You can. It's in here. You just gotta fucking find it.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's why I love this shit so much. It's like that's, as you said, this is what's fun. Like, this is what we chase.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, there's lots of other things we can do with our life, but this is what we.
Oh yeah. Like, I think about that all the time. I was like, I fell in love with something what's very like it's honestly different, and I can't tell you why I like doing this, but it completes something inside of me what makes me feel good. You know what I mean? And that's been like that since day one.
Yeah.
You know, I was what 16 when I first picked up a dumbbell. You
Right.
know, so it was like that from day one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it
Agreed.
wasn't like that's how it's been for me. Like I get like it may not be like that for every single person. And like you said, you might have a distinct turning point. Like with that one lady example, right? She had something that clicked. But that's something for me clicked the day I picked up a dumbbell.
Right.
You know? And then when the first I kid you not, dude, I did not know what bodybuilding was until I was like almost 18. And that puts that around 2013.
Okay.
Right. And found out Jay Cutler magazine, Muscle Tech magazine. And I remember that it was funny because it was like, this is awesome.
Yep. Yep.
I was like, you can look like that.
Right.
You know
Yep.
what I mean? I was like, why is this everybody not want to look like this?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. No, listen, I felt the exact same way. Like, so I'd always trained for football. So I knew what a hard leg day was. Like,
Yeah.
we done lots of hard, like front squats, back squats, lunging, box jumps. Like, so I knew what it was like to have my legs fucked. But we were walking around Kroger with my mom, and I saw it was a magazine with Ronnie, and I still have it. It's a Flex magazine. And inside of it was an arm workout. It was supersets. And I went and did that. And I was like, this is what an arm pump feels like. Because in there they kept talking about massive arm pump. And I was like, I don't know what these people are talking about. What does it mean to have a massive arm pump? I'll have to try it. I did. I was like, this is incredible.
Right.
You can do this on your whole body? Fuck yeah.
Right.
So no, I completely relate to you on that. Like, again, not everyone may experience that. They may, I think in this today's time, they see like Chris Bumstead on Instagram or one of the influencer people like, oh, I want to look like that. Or I think sadly, a majority of them just think I want to be famous and make money like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you were the same way as me. I, I never thought I'd make money off of bodybuilding. Like,
Oh
I
no.
thought for me, I thought this is what's going to replace football. Like that itch of, as you said, just doing hard shit. Like that's what I loved about sports is
Mm-hmm.
it was pushing your mind and your body to work as a unit and endure things. Like
Mm-hmm.
so for me in football, like what scratched that itch was like returning kicks and punts because it's scary as fuck, right? Like you're looking up at the ball and people are coming at you this way and you can see them in the bottom of your eyes. You're like, if I don't catch this thing, I'm gonna get a helmet in my chin and get knocked out cold. Like that adrenaline rush for me is all like I crave that. Or like before a kickoff, like you hear the band and it's playing, the crowd's going crazy. The moment that ball hit and kicked, for me, everything went silent and it was singular focus on that ball and catch it. And when you catch it, you try to make a fucking touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I craved. And it's like this weird thing of like preparation. Did you do everything in practice? Did you work hard in the off season for that singular moment of a game that were 10 in a season when you practice the whole year for it, which is why it relates to bodybuilding to me, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you do a whole off season for one or two shows.
Mm-hmm.
And like when I lost the ability to play football, like I needed something to replace that. And that became bodybuilding. And I was like, oh, I can do hard shit. Yeah. And this never turns off. Okay. And I don't need a team to do it with. Fuck yeah, sign me up.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think you know this as well as I do. Like when our bodies say enough and we have to do something after bodybuilding, we're going to have to find something to replace that, to chase, whether that be business or another activity. I have no clue what that's going to be for me, but it's
Yeah.
going to be
For
something
real.
where we start at like say ground zero and you progress up. Like I think for a long time, one of my buddies like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know, like something crazy, like move to the beach and learn how to surf." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because I suck at it. I've never done it."
Mm-hmm.
Do fill in the blank with like skiing or snowboarding or something. Like I want to do something that I'm brand new at where I suck, and then every day is getting better, and I can take all that obsession I put towards bodybuilding and apply it to learning about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a personality trait that
Oh,
we both share,
100%.
which is why we get along.
Yeah.
So, I think we've covered it. If you want to train with us, you probably don't. Maybe you do. If you do, fuck yeah. Like, I welcome it. Please be ready. You better bring maximum effort, and please God be cardiovascular conditioned. Don't let your lungs tap out, because 9 times out of 10, that's probably going to happen.
There will be a garbage can on hand.
Yeah, right.
Not just you. I mean, I've thrown up plenty of times.
Right.
I actually, when I trained with my buddy Brad back in 2020, every time we did legs, not every time, but I lost count on how many times we got done with the workout, and I would be driving the 40 minutes back to my house, and I would throw up on the side of the freeway.
Yep.
Because that's when it would hit me.
Yep.
And like there was times I couldn't even get out of my car. I was just like, all right, cool. I'll just stick my head out the window and I'll have to go to a car wash.
Yep.
Yep. And it's just like, honestly, it's fun looking back and enjoying that, because it's like I know I pushed myself to a point where it was difficult.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just, oh, I went and had fun. Like, if that's what your goal is, like, go have fun with it. But the reason why, I'll say it, the reason why me and you both progress is because we're not always having fun.
Yes. Yep.
We enjoy it, but we also like the difficulty.
Yeah. Agreed. Yep. I'll always say this too, like, the amount of pump workouts I've forgotten are many. The amount of sessions where I questioned my existence in life, I remember every one of those. That either ended with me dry heaving, throwing up, feeling like I was going to pass out, going hypo, being absolutely miserable to where I can't stand up. I remember every single one of those.
Yeah, being sick to your stomach. I passed out once training with Brad. He woke me up and we still had squats to do, so we did them.
Right. Yeah.
It's just what it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that to me is, again, it goes back to, you just have to accept it and know that it's going to happen. And I think a lot of times too, like, if someone from the outside who doesn't watch us religiously would think, oh, they're just trying to fuck with me. No, because I'm going to do it with you and I'm going to go first.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
So I'm not messing with you. And God knows I'm way too protective of my time to do anything that I view as not essential in terms of in the gym. Like, just not. I'm not going to do a wasted movement. I'm not going to do anything fluff. If you train with me, you're going to get what I do to the max of my ability, and I expect you to mirror that effort. And if you're stronger than me, great. If you're the same strength, even better. If you're weaker, I don't care. We'll pull plates. But if you're tapping out, I'll get pissed off in a heartbeat and say, done, you're done. Like, stop it. Come back in the gear.
Yeah, effort cannot be faked.
No.
You can fake everything else about bodybuilding. You can fake eating your meals. You can fake going to the gym. But it's really easy to see, too. I mean, effort leads into progress.
Yes.
So all you people who've been looking the same for the last 10 years, we know what the problem is.
Yes. Yeah. I will always go back to, it is missing meals and training with not with purpose, or both. It's one of those two or both. Because we all know people who come to the gym and crank but don't eat, or they eat garbage. And on the flip side of that, we all probably know people who eat their meals and train soft, and they wonder why don't my muscle have that dense hard look? Why am I not separated here? Why am I not vascular in the off season? I bet if you trained hard, it'd change. That's something that people always ask, like, man, all your guys walk around with quad veins. Yeah. Because they know how to train quads. And they do that hard. Shocker. The skin's not thick because they aren't training them soft. Weird. Your quads are always cross-striated, Chris. Why wouldn't they be?
Yeah. They have no other option.
Right. They're getting hard shit. Like, And they may not be as dug out as they are that come contest time, but you can always see them every 365. They're always there. I've had them motherfuckers since I was 18 because I always knew how to squat and squat hard. Weird. Could be genetic, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I just know how to fucking work them.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. All right, guys. Until next time, Chris, Little Dave, that's a long one. 90 minutes. Let's get it.